Time 3rd, 1992. This article is an essay by Robert Hughes. Excuse me, we have a private group here. It says, the Afrocentrist claim can be summarized quite easily. It says that history of the cultural relationships between Africa and Europe is bunk. A prop for a fiction of white European supremacy. Paleo historians agree that intelligent human life began in the Rift Valley of Africa. Afrocentrists go further. They go on to say that Africa was the cultural father of us all. European culture derived from Egypt, and Egypt is part of Africa, linked to its heart by the artery of the Nile. Egyptian civilization began in sub-Saharan Africa, in Ethiopia and Sudan that I dealt with yesterday. Now look how he sums up. Listen to how he sums up this paragraph. This is what Robert Hughes says in Time, February 3rd, 1992. He says, no plausible evidence exists in these claims of Egyptian negritude. Will you read that, ma'am, right there? I don't want you to think that I'm making this up. Read the date, and then you read this line right here, out loud for everybody to sit here.
Time, February 3rd, 1992. No plausible evidence exists for these claims of Egyptian negritude.
So that now they tell you, don't be a reverse racist, when we're being a victim of racism every day. In the books, they say if you want to keep something from black folks, put it in a book. But let's go further. Arnold Toynbee, he's a real toy, he says this: when we classify mankind by color, the only one of the primary races which has not made a creative contribution to any one of our 21 civilizations is the black race. And who do we have right here? Amenemhat III looking at you, looking back at you from almost 4,000 years ago. That's why you cannot know your story. But yet at the same time, they systematically hide the colossal pieces in the back room and then go through a thing of passing the others that they put out front to make you think this is a white civilization. And then no one prototype that defines an African facial characteristic. We got thin nose, thick lips, and also wide nose. Many variations of colors of African people. But systematically, they have knocked off the ones that got wide nose and thick lips, just like you saw Horm Ackett where Napoleon blew off the nose. These are the things that's being done right now today. Here's another colossal statue, brothers and sisters, that has been taken out of the Cairo Museum. The last time I saw it was in 1985. I wonder what Robert Hughes from Time magazine would say about this African right here. Although there's no one prototype that defines an African facial characteristics, but we see that the Africans with full lips and nose are systematically being taken out. Let's continue with the live lecture to see what Newsweek has to say about this. But now Newsweek came out September 23rd, 1991. Now we got a little test here. Question: were the ancient Egyptians black Africans? Now that we're going to get research, answer: Egypt was home to the blacks now. But they also now, through multicultural, trying to include themselves, Asians and Semites. Some pharaohs were black, including the dynastic founders. Cleopatra was probably Greek. I'll deal with her in a few minutes. But let's go on. Let's deal with who was indigenous to the Nile Valley. The Temerians, who lived in Lower Egypt, which was the north, who was indigenous to the Nile Valley, called Egyptians. Today, the Hyksos invaded. They were the troglodytes, the sand dwellers, who came in 1675 BC, who invaded during the 13th dynasty, had nothing to do with the Nile Valley. The Tanahesians from the ancient Kushite civilization, and also the ancient kingdom of Tasseti, going back over 26,000 years before white folks were even on the scene. The Tamahu people, who invaded from the west, who came across the Mediterranean, attacked Egypt from Libya from the west. You could see them with their tattoos. They were nothing but barbarian beasts, even back then. See the tattoos on him? So, brothers and sisters, let's return back to the Cairo Museum to see an eyewitness account of the model that our African ancestors left us of the Temerians, now called Egyptians today, and the Tanahesians, now called Nubians today, that the African Nile Valley was their home, not the Asians and the Semites, as Newsweek tell us, as they were called in ancient times, the Hyksos. Let's return back for an eyewitness account. Brothers and sisters, again, Europeans have always tried to divide Upper and Lower Egypt. Here we see the Kemetic Africans, the indigenous people of the African Nile Valley. And keep in mind, as I said before, there's no one prototype that defines an African facial characteristic, hair texture, even color. Black people produce white. Albinoism. Now, we see that the Kemetic brothers, the Ta-Nehisians who came from the south, their origins go all the way back to an ancient kingdom called Tasseti. But we know